It just happens. 'Cause otherwise I'd forget.
I'd like to call to order the East Ascension Drainage meeting to order. Secretary let it be known that Mr. Bill and Mr. Travis is attending meetings. Everyone else is present. Mr. Dawson, would you lead us in the invocation followed by the pledge?
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for all that you've done, and we thank you for your grace that continue to abide in us and to protect us and keep us. We thank you that your word says that we're not to worry about anything, but through prayer, supplication, with thanksgiving, we make our requests known unto you, and your peace, which passes all understanding, will keep our hearts and minds. So we thank you for keeping our hearts and mind and the wisdom to do the people business well. And as we come tonight, we pray for a couple of our own that lost loved ones. We pray for Alan Allred and the loss of his mom. We pray that you minister to their family and soothe their hearts. We also pray for Kentrell Hines, and he lost his dad. And we all understand, those of us who've been through these things, that they're difficult times, but we know that you can heal them and you can touch them and you can soothe them. So we pray for that. We pray for your wisdom as we do the people of business, and we ask these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with the secretary. Ms. Secretary Travis, Mr. Turner's here. Move on to number 4, the acceptance of the December 10th drainage meeting.
So move.
Second. Moved by Mr. Todd, second by Mr. Johnny. Accepted. Number 5, election of officers. East Ascension Drainage Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I'd
Johnny.
like to place in nomination Dempsey Lambert for chairman.
Second.
Any other nominations? We have a motion and a second. I'd like to thank everyone. Appreciate it. Have a lot of work to do this year, so we'll get to work. We'll move on to B, election of vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Randy Kluwat for vice chair.
Second.
Any other nominations from the floor? None. Motion and second.
Go ahead and
Mr.
get a second
Kluwat.
on it.
We didn't get a second.
Need to get a second on it.
I did.
Mr. Johnny.
Cagnolati.
All right.
Point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe a second is required for nomination in Robert's Rules of Order, but if you want it, that's.
Just for the
We
minute.
record it. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you all very much.
Second for Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you folks very much. We've got a lot, like Dempsey said, we got a lot of projects. We got one project that's been pending, being held up for a year. We're trying to come to some kind of agreement on that right now. We've got a lot of other projects since the 2016 flood and a lot of federal money that we're looking to try to pull our way. And we appreciate everybody's full cooperation as you've been for the last couple of years in this, and continue moving forward.
Thank you. No chairman's report. We'll move on to number 7, drainage report. Mr. Joy.
I'd like to go first, if you don't mind, Chairman. Good evening, Councilwoman and Council. Start off with general work orders. In the month of December, it's kind of slow, holidays time, but we wound up completing 32 work orders in drainage. And the contract for the ditch digging is going very well. We did an amendment with you guys in November to bring it to $750,000, and currently we have them tasked out up to $530,000 worth of work. We've been invoiced $335,000, so that's progressing well, and it won't be long. We'll probably be coming back to you guys. So we're at 50,000 linear feet of ditch dug since the contractors started. I believe they started up in October. So they're moving along very well as planned, and will be more reports to come in the future meetings on that. And the last meeting, you guys had asked for us to kind of notify you all when the pumps are enacted. You sort of saw that over the holidays, unfortunately. Christmas and New Year's week, both of those weeks, we had to enact the stations and floodgates. So emails went out. I think it was both situations the day before the event hit. We actually went ahead and turned some things in action and got things down. So that seemed to go well. I got some good feedback on the report on that. It was also asked, Mr. Dawson's not here tonight, but he had asked us to look at some work at the pumping stations going to automated systems. We did consult with Adura Group on that. We've tasked them to give us a high-end overview of what that would consist of, what it would take, benefits, the pros, cons, cost. So he's put together a timetable to do that, and we'll be bringing back a full report on it, not any recommendations, but just discussion on it. And we'll see where the board would want to go at that point. Currently, we have drainage, has 14 projects going right now in the parish. All of them, I can go over all of them, but if you got any concerns of them, you can contact us and we can go into detail on that. And we do have some pretty immediate needs on Palmetto Lane. We had a road crossing there on a major lateral that's very deficient, so the guys are fixing to mobilize and change that out, put box culverts. The Fuller property where the state had did this work on Highway 431, there's some undersized pipes on the outfall there. That will be mobilized in the very near future. The pipes have been purchased and servitude's been secured, and they'll be getting started on that. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have. Turn it over to Mr. Joey on the capital projects.
We have several ongoing projects. H. Davis Cole continues to work on the New River drainage dredging project. Plans are near 95% complete. We will have a plan in hand meeting. That's kind of the finale on the plans. That's scheduled for next week. We will also have an arborist come out to make sure that we pay respect to the live oak trees that are in the area that will be in the line of the work. So all of that is like the final touches on those plans. HNTB is working on the LOMR, the letter of map revision, and that will be on agenda number 8. There'll be a presentation. Jerome Fournier will come up and make that presentation there to give you details. The HNTB is also working on the highly feasible projects that include the LA 22 project, Marvin Bro levee system, and the Bayou Conway Panama Canal pump to the river. So they're continuing to work on the benefit cost analysis, which is like the next step from those 3 projects that were given merit to go into further detail. Next month we'll need to, because their work is going to continue on those 3 big projects, their contract concludes the end of this month, so we'll need to address that at the next meeting. GSA continues to work on the Fish Bayou project. They've had meetings with parish officials and the property owner in December to discuss the addition of a weir and servitude donation. GSA and parish officials and the PLD met in January to discuss a proposed agreement. It's been a back and forth with the property owner, and we're hoping that there's an agreement that the property owner will, and he's shown that he's acceptable to an agreement. So that document is, having the lawyers look at it just to make sure that everything's official, that we could come to an agreement and get that project moving. We have BKI working on 2 enhancement projects for the Marvin Brook pumps. One is flood proofing the pumps themselves, the pump housing. Those plans should be concluded at the end of this month. We also have a stop log project that will be concluded at the end of February. That's those, the plans, will be concluded then. And then we'll, there'll be 2 separate projects that we can bring up to the committee to see if we want to actually put those out for bid. Bryant Hammett and Associates put out plans for the upgrade of drainage pipes and driveways for 4 roadways. The bids were accepted from 8 different companies, and that conclusion of that is going to be item number 8. That's going to come up shortly. And that is it. That's all I have.
Appreciate it, Mr. Joe.
Okay.
Mr. Salvor, Mr. Turner, you have anything on the drainage report? Mr. Sadler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a personal note of a success that happened just this morning in District 4, I'd like to thank Mr. Daniel, who I called after hours late Friday about a problem that one of my voters is having. Mr. Eustace lives on Tiki Duplessis. A bridge drainage, a block problem where some tree limbs and stuff had fell into the ditch. And I understand a crew has already been out there as of this morning. In fact, I got a picture coming of it here. Always like to talk about the good things, and so thanks, guys. In fact, Mr. Eustace has already sent me a personal thanks, and I said all praise and honor goes to our crack crew. Thank you, gentlemen, for such incredibly quick service.
Mr. Aaron?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Mr. Randy?
Yeah, Joey, if you, on Lomar, as we've been working on it, can you tell me the scope of the area of the Lomar?
It's going to be part of that presentation, but it's the Bayou Conway watershed, the entire Bayou Conway watershed. It involves about 11 panels, the flood panels, but some of it is just small portions, some of it's almost the entire panel. But that's what it is. It's the Bayou Conway watershed, which is the biggest watershed in the parish.
Right. I just want to make sure that everybody understood that it wasn't like parish-wide. Not at this point, anyway.
Ms. Terry?
Thanks, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ron, if either you or Joey would elaborate a little bit on our outreach to Iberville Parish in this most recent flood event or rain event, and help my constituents back in the Bluff Swamp Ridge Road community to understand that what we have done to try to outreach to them, and then maybe even elaborate a little bit on the addition of a couple of gauges, USGA gauges back there that'll be in that capital project.
Sure. As you know, we're in touch with you, communicating the gate operations. Anytime we open or close, we're letting you know.
Absolutely.
We try to let water out as long as possible. We let water out all the way. We were in the rain before we closed the gates prior to those events. We definitely stay on point with Mr. John with Iberville. So he knows when we close the gates and open. In this particular instance, I'm not sure why, but there was a period of time where they could have opened a little bit earlier, and they held some water back. But it's equalizing now. But we do notify them. I did call him once we saw this going on and expressed that our residents in Ascension, some drained through there, and we were concerned and definitely reiterated to them to please open them as soon as possible. I will reach out with him and line up a meeting to where we can discuss this to, right now we're okay, but in the future, try to get a little bit better coordination on that end. But we assure the residents on our end, as soon as we can, we will open or close those gates.
And I certainly will let the administration know. I asked Ron to let me know when they were opening and when they were closing gates, and I get a text message when that's going to happen, usually several hours in advance of the fact that it's going to happen. He lets me know. My folks who live back there, they know. And it's always helpful to me to be at least as knowledgeable as they are. And Ron has helped me tremendously to have the knowledge that I need, and so I thank him. And certainly we have had a lot of discussion around this operation plan, and while we want to play well with others, we really do. We work beautifully with Iberville, and we want to be sure that continues. But I'm going to get a call if they don't open, and it's very hard to tell people who live on the Ridge Road, well, I don't have any control over that. I mean, there's nothing we can do. Ms. Linda Bro said to me, are you telling me we're on our own? And I said, no, ma'am, I'm not. I'm telling you the full weight of Ascension Parish will be behind you. But we're going to do that in a way that's positive and friendly, and because we feel like if we do it that way, we will have a better chance of really having a truly cooperative effort and not having somebody get their feelings hurt, and then we have a hard time working together. So my citizens back there know that we're on their side, and Ron and Joey have been amazing, and I thank you all for the opportunity for them to do their work. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, and as to the gauges, Ms. Terry, definitely want to get those back there. We want to be transparent as possible for the residents around there. We still have to work out those details with the landowner, and I will publicly say thank you to him for working with us. It's been very pleasant thus far, and we hope to continue that working relationship and get an agreement executed to move this project forward.
Yeah, I'll do the same if I may take one more second, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Frank Bonifay has been amazing to work with in this project, and we are very grateful to him for his willingness to donate land, to donate a place for this project, to have all of its equipment, and so we are very grateful to Mr. Frank, and I want him to know from this dais how much we appreciate him and what it's going to mean to this project, that he has been helpful, and it's been a good experience, and I think that has been primarily the result of young Miss Kimberly and her work from GSA to Mr. Frank. They have struck up a really good friendship, and it goes back to my position again that when people get along well, they can get a lot accomplished. And Mr. Frank and Kim have worked beautifully together, and as a result, we've seen a lot of progress. Thank you all. Kim, thank you.
Mr. Tom.
Yeah, Ron, Janelle Street. I know we did the covered work on it. Did a fine job. It is working. But we approved, I think at the last meeting, to put the driveways back.
Yeah, that's in the works.
I think
It's
we
just
are.
the
Matter of fact, I
holiday
think we
schedules.
bidded it out. I think
Yeah.
someone got that job.
Mhm.
You don't know where. I've had a few since.
I talked to the department last week. Like I said, we had a lot of vacation on our end,
Right.
and also the contractors in. So
Okay.
they do have a purchase order to go ahead and move forward.
Move forward with it. Good job and well worth. Thank you, Parish President, for getting that done also. Thank you.
Mr. President, you had something?
I called you last week about the Swamp Road project in Dock District.
Yes, sir.
Wrapping it up?
Yes, sir. It is now completed. We had some issues with weather and a couple of issues with the contractor, but that has been resolved, and it is completed.
Okay, then, one other thing I'd like you to look at, and I wanted Doc's opinion on it. Doc, when you come over the railroad track, I've been trying to do something with that big canal, I call it, not a ditch to the right. Could we maybe look at putting a rail like we did at the animal shelter? That if a car goes off, they'll hit the rail instead of going in the canal?
Well, thank you for the concern, Mr. President. It is something I've brought to the attention of DPW in the past. when we talked about the safety fix that we just heard, and thanks for that was complete on Swamp Road. For those not to know, he's talking about where Ray Barnes Village is by the railroad tracks further down from the Airline Highway on Swamp. And it's a really bad area. It's obviously grandfathered in narrower than what our codes require. I believe right in that area you'd probably find it down to about 14 feet maybe. And a good bit of the side of the road is eroding into that big canal that he's talking about. In fact, the railroad crossing there, if you do an inspection, you'll clearly see part of there's two big white R's for railroad, I guess, and the lower portion, right-hand most bottom side of the second R is missing, sloughed off into the road. Not an expert on what the fix would be, but certainly would love to see us spend a few dollars there maybe to fix that, because there are other areas on Swamp, of course, that are narrow, but none, in my opinion, is dangerous. And of course, the one that has been fixed closer to the airline, I'm not saying it took this, but terribly enough, there was a very serious accident there that precipitated that. I would love to think that there's something we could do, but I don't really have the expertise to answer the question and say this would be what to do. Versus just widening or putting culverts like we did further upstream and blacktopping over that a little bit, because I'm sure anything that you do to fix the side is going to fall off into the ditch again.
Well, I appreciate the comments, Councilman. What I think we should do here is relate this to Mr. Enlow's division and let him do the same analysis we did on the front. He'll draw up a report, gather all the facts about the spot, and make a recommendation, and we can come back.
What I want to do is, if we could, to do something safety without have to deal with the railroad. That's what I've been hitting road stop blocks with the railroad being right there. So even if we could put a rail or something to keep people out of the canal, might, got to do it before and after.
Did you want to talk to Mr. Enlow about that then, or do you care that you want me to speak with him, or?
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to come from you, and then
All right.
I'll let him know it's coming, and we'll get together on it.
I will certainly do that, and Mr. President, I thank you for offering to look into that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. Mr. Johnny.
Yeah, Ron, kudos again. The contractor that y'all hired to do ditch clearing in my district, I'm not sure they completely finished my district, but where they did work, I got calls from constituents. The contractor was very cordial. He listened to what they had to say. Oftentimes, they told him what he needed to do, and he kind of just nodded, but went ahead and did what he needed to do. But thank you. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Bennett. With
Hey, I got
that,
one
go
other
ahead.
thing, Chairman, I forgot to mention was the call center has been enacted since the new year. And anytime we go into something new, there are little bumps in the road here and there. But so far, it's going very well with the transition, because we are running dual. We have the new system software that came in with the customer service center that is generating the customer's requests now. And then we're still using the Cartograph work order system to track the work orders. So we have been in touch with the company, and now that the customer portal is up and running, they're now focusing on building our work order system to reflect our needs. So earlier this week, we met with them, and we've tasked them with the low-hanging fruit, which is our other divisions like pavement, vegetation management, the ones that turn over work pretty quick. So we can get a template built that will get the model of generating a request into a work order, and then that workflow established and up and functioning. And once we get those smaller divisions working, we have the task of merging all of the existing work orders from Cartograph over to the new My Permit Now software. So in talking with the company, that's going to be a length of time before that transition takes place. So we are running dual, but there are communications bridging the two softwares together where we're referencing Cartograph work orders on the software at the customer service end. So as transparent as we can get it at this point, and we hope at the end of these growing pains that we start getting you guys reports very thorough and transparent on the needs of the boards. And it's just going to take some time to get all that up and running. But so far, we're very satisfied with the company and the progress. And Mr. Rick's team And also the Public Works and other entities in the parish are all working together to try to keep this thing moving in a positive direction. So just an update on that.
Appreciate that. And also, Ron, with the last two events, with the trees that we had down and the excess, I think it was right at 4 inches, there was no structural flood. It was just, what cause did you get in?
Well, we had everything pumped down. Mainly your low-lying streets that, like Summerfield, for instance, Penny Street, which will be addressed later. You got some areas that normally go under that saw some water, and you had some areas that just had that flash flooding type call. But like you said, it wasn't any structural flooding. It was concern, but everything flowed out. And we had a few. We did go inspect the canals after pumping. We do have several trees down, but respective landowners were trying to work that out with them. They're notified. It's just so darn wet to get off the road right now with these big excavators to go get them. So they're noted, and we do have plans in place to go open that up. But other than that, we worked rather well.
Well, appreciate the report, and everything's looking good, man. With that, we'll move on to general business, number 8. A bid for drainage improvement. I see Ms. Darlene Berthlot.
Good evening. On December 18th, 2018, the Purchasing Department received 8 bids for drainage improvements for Savoy Road, Penny Street, Shealy Drive, and Riverside Estates Drive. After review, the Department of Public Works and the Purchasing Department recommends accepting the lowest responsive bid submitted by Hard Rock Construction, LLC, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this service.
Moved by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
Thank you.
We'll move on to number 9, a presentation. Ms. Shivers, or who's going to give the, Mr. Jerome?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, congratulations. Before you tonight is a presentation on the LOMR, which is a letter of map revision, as Mr. Turo indicated earlier. In your packet is a letter from FEMA dated November 16th. But before I get into that, the late summer, early fall parish consultants, H&TB, submitted a firm, which is the flood insurance rate maps to FEMA for the Conway Basin for approval of a LOMR, the letter of map revision, right? That letter is in your packet dated November 16th from FEMA. Basically, it covers the Conway Basin, as Joey indicated. Along in that packet, there was a memo that we were requested to prepare that showed some of the differences, some of the things that occurred when we processed that, and I'd like to go over that, and it's the fact sheet that we prepared back in that time period. The number of parcels that are in the Conway Basin that changed from X, meaning X is not in the floodway, to A, which means they are in the floodway, is a total of 136. Of those, all of those are in Council District 3, Council Member Turner's district. 21 of them are actually in the city of Gonzales, right, which covers a portion of his district, 0 in Sorrento. The number that changed from A or AE, which is in the flood zone, to X, meaning that they were removed from the flood zone, is 1,244, right? So of those, 1,167 are in Councilmember Dawson's district, District 2, and 77 are in District 3, Councilmember Turner's district. 207 of those are within the city of Gonzales, and 30 are in the town of Sorrento. An interesting component of the new maps that you're going to have that will represent the Conway Basin area is the new designation by FEMA called a floodway. All right, that's different than a floodplain. A floodway is the actual area within the floodplain that carries the water. It's a shallow, deeper area for the most part, and it's where the direct flow of the stream of the water body is being carried. There are a total of 48 parcels, and I say parcels, that are in the newly designated floodway. Now, we looked at some of these. One of them is a bridge. These are structures that are on a parcel that's in the floodway. But there are certain categories of parcels that have structures in them other than a bridge, meaning a house or a barn or a shed or something like that. They're going to have to go through certain specifications in terms of how they can build. What FEMA's trying to do is get us not to build in these floodways. They'd like to have these areas available to carry the water. And in the packet, we put a little explanation from FEMA on floodway encroachments. You have that? It gives a little diagram as to what the definition is. It also gives you a little indication of what can and can't be built within the floodways, right? Go back to the memo. The next item on the agenda, actually, and it kind of carries into this one, is adoption of the D ordinance, all right? You don't have to adopt the maps necessarily, or you don't have to adopt the maps, but you will have to adopt the D ordinance. They basically carry with the maps. At the time we had the workshops with you guys, it was asked, how's this going to affect flood insurance? And basically the answer is that we don't know at this point in time, but FEMA gave us a pamphlet, and I included that in your package as well, that showed that basically if you have insurance now and we're in the X zone and you're in the AE zone or the A zone, your insurance should not have any difference, all right? Very, very minor change. If you're in the X zone and you're now put in the floodway and you don't have insurance, it's advisable to get the insurance now. Because if you don't, if you get it now, you'll be subject to the current rates. If you wait after the D ordinance is adopted or after this thing's become effective, you will be subject to the higher rates. So we're advising people to get their insurance now, all right? So with that, I have our consultant, Melissa Kennedy with H&TB here to answer any technical questions related to the mapping process itself. And I'll be happy to answer any general questions as best I can.
Mr. Turner?
This is a general question. As far as the ones that are going to be having a higher rate, have we sent letters out already?
We are preparing those right now. We will be sending those to the 136 properties, basically explain the situation, and we're advising them to get the insurance.
Okay,
if they don't already have the insurance.
No, we send those letters certified?
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
So
yes.
The ones that don't come back that maybe we have incorrect address, what's going to be our process to try to notify those residents?
We haven't determined that yet, council member, but we will. And I'll get on that personally, and we'll try to identify the people as best we can. Right. Joey has a little more info on that.
Ms. Deborah DeOrman is doing a research of those properties, because there may be people living there, but the ones we need to get in touch with is the property owners. We don't want to send the memo to a renter. We want to deal with the owner, and that's what she's going to research. Once she has all of those property owners, we're going to send certified letters to those property owners.
Okay.
And Joey, I would suggest maybe just using the assessor's records too, see who's getting those tax bills. Because normally those are the owners that maybe would speed it up for you, Ms. Deborah.
Yeah, and those are the addresses that we do have on record right now, is from the assessor's office.
Mr. President?
That's what I wanted to say was, it's the landowner, not the renter, if it is a renter. But if they cannot, if they find the owners and we can't get it to them, we'll send it by a runner and have them sign for it. Make sure they get it. Okay?
Mr. Randy?
Yeah, Jerome, on the multiple pages of the Lomar determination document, my copy has some underlined where we got some dates that we have to enact by and things like that. Do we have any legislation that we need to change other than approving this? Do we need to put, because we want to stay within the ordinance or the boundaries of the National Flood Insurance Program parish-wide, right. And that's the only way, you're either in or you're out, so.
You will be doing that on the next agenda item when you adopt the D ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be it, so we ought to be good after that.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Trying to look forward to
Right.
what we're throwing at people.
Mr. Sadler.
Yes, Jerome, thank you for the report. The, the two items in our packets that underlie this item on the agenda that are labeled letter and letter respectively, Randy was just referring to the first one. It says letter, and I read it says within 6 months from the date of the letter. You underline adopt. We have to adopt and show evidence of adoption of a floodplain management regulations that will meet the standards of paragraph 60.3 subsection D. Is that the same as the D ordinance that you're referring to in the second letter?
That is, yeah, yeah.
So
the D ordinance.
Going back to Travis's question, I want to hear what you have to say too. We have to do this. It says, did I read it all? We have 6 months to do it.
Correct.
So citizens obviously are alerted before then, and I guess our best methodology is what Mr. Matassa was saying, sending them some sort of letter,
right,
certified, or however that's going to happen.
We're going to be sending letters to the property owners that went from the X zone to the A zone. Those are the letters that we're going to be sending out.
Because to be sure, if it doesn't happen in time and we enact this ordinance, they're paying a higher rate.
Yes, that's correct.
And
right.
And I guess I'm just really, we're gonna make some changes here. We got some time frames, so I'm just saying that we do not want to default anything that would possibly look at us losing our national flood insurance program for the parish-wide. So.
Okay, on the presentation, are there any other questions? Ms. Kennedy?
I just wanted to clarify, the date is May 15th is when everything becomes effective, so you have until May 15th to notify the owners and get them to change their insurance and all that.
That's the actual letter.
And how many? How many owners will be notified, did he say? Jerome?
He said,
How many owners will be notified?
I'm sorry?
How many owners need to be notified?
That's right.
It's the 136.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question.
Go ahead, Travis.
How long before the letters are sent out?
Joey just reminded me that the D ordinance, that adoption has to be done by the town of Sorrento and by the city of Gonzales as well. And we have briefed them on this. They have a copy of the ordinance. Joey and I have a meeting with the mayor of Sorrento tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and we'll be going over that with them. We've already briefed them once. The city of Gonzales is already aware of it, and they're prepared to adopt the D ordinance as well. All right, so, yeah.
Appreciate it. I know it's been long. Go ahead.
How long before the letters are sent out?
I'm sorry, sir?
The letters, how long before they are sent out?
It's just a matter of finding the, those true owners. As soon as that's done, we've got people ready to go. As soon as that research is done, so, it shouldn't take very long at all.
2 weeks, 1 week?
Yeah, no more than 2 weeks.
Okay, because you said the deadline is May 15th to switch.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another follow-up, gentlemen. Will the letter that goes out, I'm not sure what that beast is going to look like, but obviously it's going to have some explanation of consequences if they don't act by a certain time. And I don't know if y'all could even answer what the changes in the race would be. I doubt you could. Like this pamphlet, are they going to get? What exactly are you going to tell them?
Well, in insurance terms, I was told it's like preferred rates. If you're in an X zone, you have a preferred rate. If you're in an AE zone, you're not in a preferred
But we expect them to understand the severity of what the difference would be without giving anything specific, or?
I don't know specifics. We don't know specifics.
We can't give them anything specific.
Correct.
Is what my colleagues was right here. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What we've been advising to do is check with their insurance agent, and I've talked with insurance agents recently and said that please get in touch with your insurance agent. They will give you the full details, the cost, and everything else associated with this.
Okay, very fine. Thank you.
Mr. Rand.
Yeah, I just, I've got some of the same questions they've got because I'm looking at May 15th not being that far away. And I know, appreciate Deborah before she got to this chair at some point in her life with the years of title search and everything that she's worked on. That simple land acquisition and trying to find the real owner of a piece of property sometimes is and getting in touch with them gets to be hard. So I'm with Doc on what's going to say on the letter. if somebody's compiled a letter or a form letter or whatever, that, you know, letting these people know the urgency of what we're talking about here, that's all.
Yeah, and we can send y'all a copy of the proposed letter.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that prevents us from publishing notice of this in the papers and stuff.
That's what I was thinking, and, you know, I don't even know if you got a certain area that's, you know, you got a bunch right here in Sorrento, you know, or you got a bunch right here on Conway or wherever, then you would want to have maybe a town hall, and that might be up to the councilman of those districts, you understand? So, you know, wherever Travis, you know, just kind of explain to people what's going on.
Ms. Terry?
I was just going to suggest that we might utilize Channel 21 as well with some maps, and, you know, if you live in this area, please contact whomever, your insurance agent, something that would extend the reach to these folks in that community.
We'll work with administration and Martin McConnell on that as well.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, you good?
Just
Travis?
one more thing. Terry brought up a good point. If you're going to use Channel 21, can you just run the addresses on there as well? Like as a scroll?
I'd have to check with legal counsel if we can run specific addresses on television. So.
Yeah, let's just figure
It's
out.
already on the
where
map,
to identify,
so
we'll go
learning
from there.
If from a legal perspective we can do that, we will, but
Okay.
we'll get some legal advice on that one. Thanks.
Okay, with the presentation, is everyone satisfied? We'll move on to number 10, the acceptance of the staff recommendations. Jerome?
Yeah. Again, this is kind of a follow-up to the Lomer. This is the Ordinance D. What we have right now in our code of ordinances under flood prevention is Ordinance C, basically. And Ordinance C is a compilation of A, B, and C. As it changed over time, we've adopted those, and those are in our code of ordinances. What we're adopting tonight, or recommending to council to adopt, is Ordinance D. And Ordinance D only changes, for the most part, the concept of floodways and the newly identified floodways on the new maps. And that's basically the only change. There are some nitpicks. We corrected some language and things of this in there. But for the most part, basically, we're just dealing with floodways, and that's the new change between ordinance that we have now and the Ordinance D. Right.
Motion to send this to the council for adoption.
Moved by Mr. Benny, second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Number 11, approvals of substantial completion. Mr. Turo?
This is the the substantial completion of work done by Wharton Smith at the Marvinboro Pump Station. It included straightening out and reinforcing the rakes on Pump 6. It dredged some material on the backside of the pumps, just silt material that accumulated over time. There's a cooling tank on that Pump 6 that was extended so that the antifreeze overflow doesn't overflow. So it was raised for that purpose. And then the pump and gearbox connection was leveled to where it works, it's realigned better. And an expansion joint was replaced also. So that was part of that contract there.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Todd, second by Ms. Terry. Any discussion? Any opposition? Not, motion passed.
Thanks.
Number 12, we need to move on to executive session.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Terry, second by Ms. Johnny. Roll call, Mr. Def.
Travis Turner,
Yes.
Daniel Satterlee.
Yes.
Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
Randy Kluwat.
Yes.
Aaron Lawler.
Yes.
Terry Cazzo.
Yes.
Todd Lambert.
Yes.
John Tagnolotti.
Yes.
Benny Johnson.
Yes.
There are like 5 of them.
Growing like a weed.
It's huge. I went over there, Ronnie was a little bit.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Motion and second with the, Mr. Ploak, you have the motion?
Yes, on agenda item number 12. I would like to make a motion to authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents between the relevant parties to move project forward on the Law Ridge levy.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any opposition to the motion? None. Motion passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Ploak. Second by Mr. Jones. We adjourn.